Hey folks, it is I, Jason Hyatt, with Backyard Prepiversity on the CTW TV network. Look, I got it all out without messing it up. I figure if I say it fast enough, I won't screw it up. But anyway, Backyard Prepiversity is live. This is not a recorded show, not yet anyway. Maybe one day I'll record one and we'll try that on for size. But we actually have a guest today. We're going to give him a few minutes to get set up, and I got to tell you some things that are going on here at the main location for all the things that we do. We had 16 eggs in the incubator. I knew 2 were duds. They didn't get zygotes in them when you put a candle on them, which somebody will tell you more about that later. They never became chickens inside the egg. We had 2 that just didn't want to hatch for some reason. They were duds. But we had 12 that did, meaning for a very, very busy weekend of taking chicks out of the incubator and putting them in a temporary brooding box to put them in a bigger brooding box after we built an A-frame chicken coop for the other chicks. It's been very busy. But I think he's ready. I got thumbs up. All right. So we have Mr. Bull himself, Dean Howell. We're going to speak about other backyard critters you can have. And he's the only person I know that has the knowledge that you guys need to hear. It's about these particular things. I learned some, but he's better at it than I am. So without further ado, we have Mr. Dean Howell. Hey, Dean.
Hey, everybody.
So,
how's it going?
Oh, we're good. Or at least I'm good. They might be good. All right. I don't know if you can see it on your screen. To your right, there's a thing called comments. You can see all that. You can click over there and see all the comments.
Oh, hey.
So as things go on and people ask questions, it'll be over there. Hopefully, right. Possibly.
Cool. So you can hear me all right?
I can hear you. It's a little quiet. A little bit. Right. I'm guessing you can hear me just fine.
Oh, yeah. Loud and clear.
Okay. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and why you know so much about goats?
Well, that's a good question. First of all, retired Air Force, 22 years, special operations. So, hey, look at
that. That's just Dan. Don't worry.
Yeah. Hey, Dan. Anyway, retired about 5 years back and decided that I wanted to start a little farm for myself, for my sanity, do a little homesteading, and really didn't want to get into large livestock. That takes a little bit more time and patience and money. So decided to get into, a medium level livestock product, which is goats. Started out with 2 and exploded from there and ended up with about 19. So, in 2 different herds.
I tried to help you with that. It didn't quite work out.
That's all right. No, it's been fun. They are, very much my emotional support animals. I have a service animal, much like you, but the goats are my emotional support animals, along with my donkeys. You're very familiar with my donkeys.
Yeah. The 2 new ones.
Yeah. So that's about it as far as, the history of why I have goats. But
why do you know so much about goats? Having 19
how about
question.
Trial and error. Lots and lots of trial and error, and a few deaths along the way. But mostly self-taught. I had a little bit of tacit knowledge from my grandparents having goats growing up. So I knew how to raise them. I just didn't know exactly what that entailed, and how much patience it would take.
Patience?
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Patience.
Well,
So we've kind
that's
of
the best
expanded
word I
it
can think of. Yeah.
because you've also got guardian dogs along with donkeys and chickens, and you had guineas. Well, you had chickens and ducks, and you can tell everybody all the nuances with such little critters. Right now, I only know chickens, and I don't know
Well,
much about chickens other than they lay eggs and I eat them.
let's see. Well, you if you have goats, you have to have a way to protect the goats. So they are not what you might say aggressive animals. They're not. They don't take care of themselves well. So you either have to have them very locked up, or have something that will protect them in case predators come a knocking. Um, I ended up with a pair of guardian dogs. They're a pretty good mix. They're Anatolian Shepherd and Great Pyrenees mixes, both very large dog breeds. But they are bred for this. That's exactly what they do. I didn't have to train them a whole lot. I just basically had to introduce them to their herd and tell them to eat anything that wasn't a goat or me. And that's exactly what they did. So it's very fun to watch them. Um, I like to go out at night because that's really when the predators come out. And I'll watch my guardian dogs. One will sleep with the herd right in the middle of the herd, and the other one will patrol around the fence. And they'll do that for about an hour, and they'll swap off, just like guard duty.
Yeah.
You know, it's really impressive to watch. I've seen them take down wild hogs, a coyote, several raccoons, possums, and even poisonous snakes.
Yeah. I know
So
the
it's
one night
really
I was out there, they were busy watching me, and then after I shot the bobcat and it hit the fence, they went absolutely berserk. So I don't know if they got it or it just died off in the woods somewhere. But
well.
yeah,
You were always really popular with them because you brought them meat.
of course, always bring them meat. I
Yeah,
didn't want to end up on their diet.
right. So Zeus, he's the male. He's about 175 pounds
Yeah,
of pure teddy bear until you mess with his goats. And then Xena, she's about 130 pounds, and she's actually the boss.
a little bit.
She controls the pasture, and Zeus just is the muscle.
Yeah,
So as far as the other critters that you mentioned, chickens, obviously, you're learning.
very much so.
Uh, um, ducks, ducks are gross, but they're fun. They're they're really cute when they're soft and yellow and little,
Yeah,
but they do grow up. Um, if you don't know much about ducks, they they there's hens and drakes, males and females. The hens lay eggs just like chickens, but they're bigger and tastier. If you've never had a duck egg, I highly suggest it.
I like the eggs. I just don't want to raise them. Something
They're
about all
very
that
good.
quacking constantly
Yeah,
in my little 1 acre backyard.
yeah, they like to laugh at you. It's not quacking. I think it's more of a laugh.
Probably.
Yeah, but the eggs are great to bake with. You just substitute one of those for a large egg when you bake, and you'll make the best bread ever. Best cakes I've ever had were duck eggs.
See if Mr. Chasing Wolf, Dan Meadows, was on here, he'd be telling you goose eggs because he used to
Well,
raise geese.
I did have a goose
Yeah, I
uh,
know.
until that infamous bobcat you were mentioning decided that he was going to come inside of my pasture and take out a few of my birds.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of, and when that bobcat took out my goose, I was very sad, and that's that's when I called Jason to do some night ops.
Well, we were out there because of the baby goat. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
All
what else, what other questions do you have?
right. Let's talk about guinea hens and then we'll get on goats.
Okay. So, I'm a fan of guinea hens, the original yard birds. Um, they are insect eating machines. So, if you can stand the look of them, because I think they look like little insane clown posses. They're little featherless headed, clown faced birds. And if you can get past the noise that they make, you will never have an insect problem.
Yeah.
They are almost as good as a guard dog. No one can sneak up on your property without guineas making a racket.
Yeah.
They're very low maintenance birds. You don't have to do hardly anything with them. They roost up in tree lines. You don't have to provide them any shelter or any food, really. You know, they forage all day long. They find, you know, they eat their body weight in bugs, and you know, they're pretty self-sufficient. But they're ugly and they're loud. I get it. I'm a fan, you know, just because I didn't have to spray for bugs or, you know,
I mean that's a plus, but don't the chickens eat the same bugs?
not as many,
Not as many? Okay.
not as many.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the goats. You had two particular types of goats
Well,
and then
yeah,
some
and
crosses.
in my perspective, there's three different kinds of goats,
Hmm.
and you can choose whatever you want based on your needs or wants. The first is a meat goat, such as Boer is a good breed for meat. They don't produce a lot of milk. They're very dense, muscular animals, and they taste good. You know, if you've never had goat before, it's a lot like lamb. It's just cheaper. You know, and then there's dairy goats, which I'm a big fan of. They produce a ton of milk, more than they ever need for their babies, and they're very easy to keep. Uh, you know, you milk them, that they will produce milk forever. Um, and then, you know, you've got, you know, the dairy goats. You've got, you know, Alpines, Nubians, Saanens. There's several different breeds. And then you've got what I call the pets, or the ornamental goats.
The dwarfs.
Uh, yeah, so you're looking at dwarf breeds like Nigerians, and then you've got, you know, of course, you've got your fainting goats,
I always wanted one. That's the only
which
one I really, really wanted was a fainting goat.
are useless in my opinion, but you know,
Well, you keep fainting goats in with your regular goats, so when there's a predator, they pass out and are sacrificial to the
sure,
predator.
that's what they were originally bred for, but now they're just a novelty. There's no need. There's no need for protecting your herd like that anymore. Uh, and you can, believe it or not, you can actually scare the fainting right out of them if you do it too much.
Yeah,
And then
yeah. You can
the
also cause them to
novelty's
have a heart
gone.
attack by yelling at them.
Right. Then the novelty's gone.
Yeah,
So you no longer have a fainting goat. You just have a, you know, small pet goat.
a small, annoying little goat.
Right.
But they are cute. I mean, seriously,
Sure.
I taught Michelle into getting goats by showing her one picture of Nugget. That's it. Then she's like, "We must
Yeah.
have goats."
Yeah. So Nugget was a product of my first breeding pair, who typically, for some reason, only give me males.
You had the one girl.
I had one girl this year, but Nugget was he was a goat in his own right. I mean, he had a great personality. He was loving, just a you couldn't find a better goat.
No, he was a good goat.
Yeah. So unfortunately, with the good comes the bad, and one of the biggest issues you have with goats is parasites. So that's
what
probably a
broke me
good
of goats.
yeah, that's probably a good segue. They're very sensitive to parasites,
Yeah.
worms. They can catch viruses just like people. Um, every now and then, my goat will have a sore throat and a runny nose. It's got a cold. So one thing to remember if you decide to have goats is always have penicillin on hand, so that you can load them up with antibiotics if you need to, just like a human. And one vaccine that they must have every single year without fail is a CDT vaccine, and that covers a pretty nasty disease called I can't pronounce it correctly. Clostridium, I believe. There's two different types of it, and tetanus. Just like a human, they're susceptible to tetanus.
Yeah.
Other than that, you have to keep dewormer on hand. A couple of things to look for. There's a lot of theories out there, and you can Google it, you can YouTube it, whatever. There's a lot of theories about when you should deworm goats. I typically don't do it unless I see signs. Three of the biggest signs, be a loose stool, because goats, feces is a lot like deer.
Yeah.
Or rabbits and pellets.
Big rabbit poop.
Right. And if it's loose, if it's diarrhea, that's a pretty good sign there's something wrong in their stomach or their intestines. They'll become emaciated. They'll lose weight really fast. But the one surefire way to tell if they have, worms is to look at under their eyelids. So if you pull down their eyelids, and it should be this nice red, pink, blood-filled color. If it's white or light pink, probably have a worm issue. So, yeah. And you learn really fast how to look for those signs and to get that dewormer in them quickly, because there are some pretty nasty worms out there.
Yeah, we ran into that one last year. Heck, you still had goats recovering from it.
Yep, it will tear through your herd. If you find a goat that is infested like that, make sure you separate them, and start giving them dewormer, as prescribed. It's all by weight, and it'll tell you right on the bottle.
Yeah, don't buy goats from sketchy people.
That's true too. It's always a gamble when you go online and you see these folks on Facebook or Craigslist or wherever selling goats. Make sure they're reputable.
Yeah.
Make sure that they know what they're doing. When you roll up in their yard and they're just throwing,
Seven dust all over them.
Seven dust all over their goats is probably not a good spot to buy.
Yeah. Yeah. Things I've learned.
Right.
That's a big one right there.
So I learned too.
I mean, the biggest thing I was told about goats growing up is they'll eat anything. And after having them in the yard, they really won't eat anything. They'll eat most things that are green, but there's still stuff in the yard they wouldn't eat. They wouldn't touch it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They're not really picky eaters. They will eat most grasses, most weeds. They'll stay away from, stuff that's poisonous. They know better. They need grain, based on what they're missing in the soil, but they don't need a lot of it. So, a lot of grain has copper in it. If your soil, go test your soil if you're planning on having goats.
Yeah.
If it's low in copper, make sure that, you're feeding them something that's high in copper. There's a whole list of things out there that goats need mineral wise. And you can supplement that.
Yeah, it's like that selenium or whatever it is.
Right. And you can give them, mineral blocks or, loose minerals, just follow the directions. It's easy. And hay during the winter, they'll be just fine. They're really not picky eaters. I will say they're escape artists.
Yes.
So
they'll get themselves stuck between fences.
Right. So that's another thing to talk about. Most goat breeds, unless they are polled, it's bred out of them. We'll have horns, males and females.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this thing out there. It's called disc budding. You'll do it very early in their life, but it's essentially just burning off their horns.
Yeah.
Down to the skull. So I have it done professionally. Some people do it at home. There's tools you can use, little irons. It's pretty gruesome to watch, and to smell. But there's a reason you do it. Goats like to put their heads out and find fresh grass, and they'll stick their heads right through a fence and won't be able to get out because their heads are like a big barb.
Yeah. I mean, you had Loki. I don't know how Loki didn't get caught in the gates on a regular basis.
Because Loki had big old devil horns and he couldn't fit them through a fence. So, yeah, he had very impressive horns. He was a full-blooded alpine. Very impressive horns, but he could get them through the gate.
Mm-hmm.
But he knew his limitations. He could get back out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. I really am surprised.
Yeah. So, but it's not, it's not like, docking a tail on a dog or, cutting ears on a dog. It's not something that's just for looks. There is a no kidding safety.
Is that no pun intended?
Right. Yeah. Right. So it's a safety thing.
Yeah, I know. You did it with Little Turd. And,
which one?
Well,
there's lots of little turds.
Nugget. I mean, that's But when you had Delilah over here to be his partner in crime in my little mini goat pasture, she liked to take her horns and beat the tar out of them with her little nubby horns.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I tried it one time. Another thing, if you have multiple males, for some reason, I don't know why, in the animal kingdom, it's all about keeping the males under control. Because all they want to do is eat, sleep, and
make babies.
And there's competition there, obviously.
Yeah.
So if you raise two males together from birth, they usually can get along. You try to introduce them later in life, it's full on war.
Yeah.
So my main buck was disbudded and Loki was not.
Yeah.
So I tried it, learned not to do it. And, I played doctor in the pasture with Duke.
Yeah.
Because he ended up bloodied.
Yeah.
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 So, we're telling you all the bad stuff about having
goats. I need to hear the bad stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's work. It's not something you just, you can throw in your backyard and say, oh, they're so cute. There's work to it. Just like any animal, any pet, there's work. But the reward is also there. I mean, they're very loving animals. Um, they love to be petted. They love to be, loved on. The males don't ever go, to the males if you don't want to smell like them,
Yeah.
because they will rub themselves all over you. Now you can. There is a difference usually between bottle babies and goats that are raised by their mother.
Mm-hmm.
If you separate a baby at birth from their mother for whatever reason, either they're going to a new home or the mom is not a good mom, you have to feed them like a baby. Um, every 4 hours, formula, you got to feed them. What that does, though, is it creates a bond. They associate you as mother. They associate you as their source of food, and they become very loving animals.
Yeah.
So a lot of people like to bottle feed just for that reason. Um, I, you know, I had one or two like that. I had, and you could tell the difference.
Yeah.
It was obvious.
I don't know if I'd ever want to bottle feed goats. I mean, it's enough that once you walk out your door, if you keep them in your backyard and not in a fenced area, that they're on top of you.
Yeah,
They will use you to climb up.
of course.
Yeah. And yours pull your beard.
Well, my main female Daisy likes to eat my beard. So, you know, when it's not nice and pretty and black, it's gray and looks like hay. So I guess, yeah, she grabbed a hold of it last week and pulled out the whole middle section of my beard. So,
So they're like puppies in that aspect. All the puppies that we have do the
sure.
same thing to me. Speaking of puppies, Maya's laying right by my feet, panting
Yep.
her little butt off.
Yep. So it's almost time. And
It's getting there. Her belly's not tight though,
yeah, Naya's laying right next to me.
but you can feel them moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, she got babies. Lots of babies in there.
Let me
So,
know. I'll be over there.
yeah. So, let's talk baby goats because I've had my experience with the baby goats, unfortunately, but I've also had the good experience with the baby goat, which was cool as hell. So,
Yep. So if you are planning on breeding your goats, um,
isn't that the only way to get milk?
it is. Uh, you have to deal with birthing goats. Um, so the gestation on a goat is about, depending on the breed, 5 to 6 months. I call it 5.5. And there's some very distinct signs you can tell. You can take them and have them ultrasounded, and you might not be able to tell the sex right away, but you can tell how many are in there. Goats will birth, anywhere depending on the breed and the size of the goat, 1 to 4 goats at a time. I've never seen 4. I've seen twins and triplets, but most of mine only gave single babies. And there are some signs you can tell when they're about to go into labor. First time moms will usually bag up, which means they start producing milk and their udders fill up.
Mm-hmm.
We call it bagging up. About a week prior. Second or more kiddings, it may only be, you may only get a couple of days. But if you take them and have them checked out and ultrasounded, they can usually give you a rough birth estimate.
Yeah. I mean, we're not talking about show goats here.
No. No.
which,
Now, if you want to talk about show goats, well, let's get through the babies first.
well, yeah, but uh, yeah, no,
There's
you get your
so
surprise goats.
right, absolutely. And they always like to, go into labor when I'm out of town, and then I have to call Jason in the middle of the night, go, help my goat. Um, so just like humans, just like any other animal, you can have issues with labor. You can have breech births. You can have um, stillborns. You can have, all sorts of issues. Um, Typically, goats, they do it themselves. You don't have to do a whole lot of work. But in those rare cases, you may have to get in there and participate,
Yeah, it's
so to
not like a
speak.
cow where you can go shoulder deep, but
No,
it's yeah,
no, but sometimes you do have to help. Um, and there can be complications. They might not expel the afterbirth like they're supposed to, and that can go sour inside of them and cause problems. Um, Sometimes the moms don't want anything to do with them. Typically they give birth, and their natural instinct is go straight to that birthing sac, get rid of it, lick it off, and start caring for their baby. But sometimes they just don't, and you got to get in there and open that thing up and get that baby cleaned off and make sure that they start feeding right away. There is one thing that you should have on hand for sure, which is called colostrum. You can buy it as a supplement, and all it is when a baby's born, and this is any mammal. The mother initially produces what's called colostrum, and it's filled with good stuff, vitamins, minerals, fat, nutrient stuff that your baby needs the first 24 hours after birth. So let's say your baby's born, your kid is born, and the mom doesn't want it. Well, she's stocked full of this stuff, but she's not feeding the baby goat. So you got to get in there and start pumping this colostrum down this goat's throat.
yeah.
Otherwise, there could be some real issues.
Well, can you take it from the mama that doesn't want to feed the baby at all? Like
You
lock her
could
in a
you can milk the colostrum out of them and feed it to them, but I don't. In that rare case, I don't want to be worried about milking the mom.
yeah.
I'm more concerned with making sure the baby's got what it needs.
I mean, if you had a bigger operation where you'd have one person milking the mama, it'd probably
Sure,
be
sure. We're
a
talking,
better way to go.
small scale homesteading
Yeah.
stuff here.
So definitely keep colostrum on hand.
Yep.
And then when I was looking up researching goats and birthing issues, they said there's one sure way to tell if a female goat has got chlamydia is due to what's going on with a birth. So, and I guess once they have it, they never really get rid of it, even if you treat them for it. So
Yeah.
they recommend actually getting rid of that goat out of your herd because
Yep.
it'll spread.
Yep.
Craziness. The rabbit holes you go down when you're dealing
Yeah.
with a situation.
Like I said, it's work, and you got to do your research, and you got to be on top of it, and you got to be prepared, but it's worth it.
Yeah. I mean, they're
Uh,
not much more work than having a dog. They're
no,
really not.
no. And, if you're smart about it, keep your goats healthy. They can provide you with, love and food and milk and, a
Soap.
lot of stuff you need,
Soap.
and you can do so much stuff with that goat milk. I raise Nubians, which are a lot of times a breed they use for show goats. So you can register your goats.
Yeah.
So there is an association out there for dairy goats, and you can register your goat just like you can with a dog. But they have to be certain breeds. They have to be certain lineages. They have to be, there's a whole process involved. And what it does, from my perspective, is it makes your goats worth more. It's the same as having a pound puppy who's full blooded, breed, and an AKC registered of the same breed. One, you get it from the pound for $100. The other one you're paying $1,200 for.
Yeah.
Because it's full blooded and it's registered. So it's kind of the same deal.
Yeah.
I never did it.
Yeah.
I never did it. I never saw the point in it.
For a backyard operation, a registered goat probably isn't needed. It's not like you're going to produce a lot of babies to sell off to fund, goating.
No, you're not. You're not going to make a whole lot of money on owning goats unless you have a large operation.
Yeah.
The FDA and USDA regulations are so strict on goats. You have to have a full up sterilized, processing area, just to milk them and sell the milk.
Unless you're making soap.
You can use it to make soap, use it for personal use. And there are some states that allow you to sell it as animal milk.
Yeah. I don't know if Georgia's one of those.
I think it is. I have to do some research. I never got into it.
Yeah. All I know is that you don't have to have any of that stuff to make soap out of the milk and sell the soap.
Absolutely not. And, personal use, you do whatever the heck you want with it.
Yeah. So if you're going to make money off your goats, soap in your backyard is probably your best bet. That way you don't have to adhere to FDA regulations.
That's correct.
So,
yeah. And it makes good soap.
Yes, it does. I don't break out rashes anymore.
Yep.
Because that's all I've been using. Thanks, Dane. You make me spend more money on soap.
Sorry.
Well, at least I'm clean.
It's good for you.
Yeah. So, say you've got 3 female goats and 1 buck in your backyard. How much room would you think you would need for that amount?
So, there's a lot of debate on that. Some folks would debate that you need acreage. You need a whole bunch of acreage, 1 acre per goat. That's not true. In my opinion, it's not true. Now, I will say that wherever you put your goat, it's going to eat everything in that spot. So you have to find a way to replenish that.
Yeah.
So I would say probably, you said 4 goats.
Yep.
I'd say maybe, 1/4 acre, half an acre would do, just so that you can move them.
Yeah.
From, section to section to section, and let a part of your property recover. Over the next season, just move them seasonally and let the property recover. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a dirt spot.
Yeah. So my yard's still set up for goats because I never changed anything. And before the whole issue with goats happened, we had overseeded our entire yard with non-fescue, fast-growing grasses and a wildflower mix. That way they can eat their pen, and then I can let them out in the main part of the main part of the yard, and they can eat everything else while that grew. And typically it would take a week for it to grow 9 inches tall.
And they love those flowers too.
So there's a way to do it in your backyard where you can have 4 goats, which we had 4 at one time. And not have to feed them a ton of hay or any hay,
Right.
but you also got to remember you got to have something for them to play on.
They're very, very social goats or social animals. So now that you mention that, don't go out and buy one goat.
No, don't. You
Um,
won't sleep.
because you will become their herd. Uh, they're social animals, so at least two, at least have a pair so they can play with each other and keep each other busy and happy and comfortable, and they can bed down together, and you'll see really fast.
It took
They
all of 3 minutes for me to realize having one goat was a mistake.
Right. Yep. You put another one in there, and 12 hours later they are.
It didn't even take 12 hours. It was like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Of course, they already knew each other.
Well,
So, but we did not sleep that first night. We had little turd here.
yeah.
I don't think my
So
neighbor slept either.
if you're just looking for little four-legged grass cutters, you can get withers.
Hermaphrodites.
They're not hermaphrodites.
I still swear Jethro didn't know whether to stand up or squat to pee.
Well, a better term for that would be like a gelding or a steer.
Yeah, I know.
They're males who have had their genitalia banded and removed, so they can't breed. They're less aggressive. They eat just as much grass, and you don't have to worry about having babies if you don't want to.
Yeah.
And they're typically, farms are trying to get rid of them.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they're typically inexpensive, easy to
Buy one,
find.
get one free situation.
Right.
We bought a female. We ended up with Jethro.
Exactly. Well, they were twins.
They were twins. They didn't want us to take one without the other.
Right.
But I really didn't want the other one. That poor little dude.
We've had a lot of fun making fun of Jethro.
Yes, we have. And the fact we named him Jethro makes it funnier.
Yeah. Didn't he have waddles too?
Yep. No. Ellie Mae had the neck nuts.
Some breeds, on a serious note, some breeds do have waddles, which are just useless little pieces of skin that hang down from their necks. Kind of like a turkey has a waddle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're fun to make fun of. So,
yep.
And they will goats will remind you when it's feeding time.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
And mine are telling me right now.
Are they screaming at you?
Yep.
Dad, food.
Yep.
Yeah.
So very fun animals. I would highly suggest it. If you've got the room and the time and the patience.
Yeah. All right. So, what are the 5 most needed items to keep a small herd of goats in your backyard?
Ooh. Fencing repair items. Penicillin dewormer. Let's say a hoof trimmer, which we haven't even talked about yet.
Yeah, no.
5 items, must-haves. I would say a lasso, but more of a lead in case you need to move them somewhere. And treats.
Yeah.
Always have treats.
Yeah. Licorice treats.
They love licorice, yes. They love animal crackers.
Yeah.
That's a very cheap, you can buy in bulk goat snack, and they will love you to death.
Yeah. They also eat all your leftover, fruits and vegetables that don't have seeds in them.
Yes. So there you can go online and find this. There's do's and don'ts for table scraps for goats. They love fruits and vegetables. Anything you throw out there, um, you know, the ends of the lettuce that you don't eat, or the clippings from your broccoli, whatever, stuff you're just going to throw in your compost or throw in the garbage. That's a meal for them. Stay away from anything that, or at least cut out the cores of things, to remove the seeds. Enough of that can produce cyanide inside the goat.
Yeah.
And that's a terrible way to go.
Yeah.
So avocados are terrible for them. There's some stuff out there that they just should not eat. So do your research before you just toss your scraps in.
I do know they'll plow through a whole field of strawberries if they get a chance.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they'll fight you for those.
Oh, yeah. Now, one thing I forgot to mention, and this is a very little known fact. They love pine trees. So, and it's great for them. So like if you get a live Christmas tree for Christmas, don't toss it out for the garbage man. Toss it in with your goats, and next thing you know, you've got a stick, because they will eat all the pine needles off of it. They'll eat the bark, and it's actually full of vitamin C, which is good for everybody.
Yeah.
And it's also a natural dewormer.
That's one of the survival things people need to know too. Pine nettle tea is probably the best thing you could possibly put in your body, and that's
Yep.
why it works good for goats. Yep. So, all right,
So-
talk about hoof trimming, because you've explained to me this 100 times, and I've tried it once.
Yeah. So hoof trimming is important to learn. It's not difficult, but they have cloven hooves, just like several other different animals on the planet, and they grow just like your toenails and fingernails. So essentially, what will happen is they're walking on them all day, so those hooves grow and they'll turn out, they'll turn under, they'll become infected. They get dirt in them. Just like you get an ingrown toenail, they'll get an overturned infected hoof.
Yeah.
So there's $20 trimmers out there that you can find on Amazon. You can YouTube it on how to do it. It's scary the first couple times, just like trimming your dog's nails. It's scary the first few times you do it, but once you get the hang of it, you know where to stop, you know where to cut, you know where not to cut. But it's super important to keep their hooves trimmed. It keeps infections down. It keeps them walking normally, because they will compensate. One surefire way to know that your goat's hooves are not exactly how they should be is they'll start eating from their knees, because it hurts them to stand still and bend down to get the grass. They'll start kneeling down and just eating grass.
Well, even when you have your goat's hooves trimmed, they'll go down to their front knees.
Well, we're talking about Jethro.
No, we're talking about all of them did it. Every single one. Well, we know why Yasmin did. Yasmin did it because her hooves are jacked when we got her.
Right.
Like,
it slowed down quite a bit after they were trimmed.
Oh yeah, but her hooves are horrible. That should have been like, lesson number one that those goats weren't cared for was looking at her hooves.
Yeah.
So when you buy a goat, you look at their eyelids, look for worms.
Yep.
You look at their butts, make sure they don't have diarrhea.
Correct.
Look at what teeth they have, because you can kind of tell if they've been eating stuff they shouldn't, or if they're older than what you're being told.
Yep.
Basically, look at their teeth like they're deer, because they have the same setup. Look at their hooves. If their hooves ain't trimmed, then most likely they're not well cared for.
That's correct.
And make sure they don't have seven dust all over them.
Yeah.
Sure sign they're parasites. If they're
I don't know if that lady's listening, but Yeah,
She's not.
she needs to do better.
Yeah. What I do know is she lost pretty much her whole herd to the same parasite. So
Yeah, and it ripped through mine pretty hard. So I learned a lot about goat care during
yeah.
that period because I was down there just about every day with those goats all
Oh,
day.
electrolytes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good thing to keep on hand, so you can have six things. Uh, yeah. Electrolytes. There's products, plenty of products out there. Gatorade will do in a pinch.
Pedialyte.
Pedialyte.
But
Same thing.
is it the same stuff you get for horses? Something like that Apple electrolyte stuff, the
It's
paste.
very similar. There's different products just for goats.
Okay.
That the doses will be different.
So, but if you're going to get goats, make sure you find an area of your yard that doesn't flood. That's
That's important.
probably pretty important.
Yep.
Make a nice goat enclosure.
Yep. Try to seal off any holes or possible escape points.
Definitely. And remember to climb. So if you're going to get toys for them to play on, aka giant spools, don't put them close to the fence
Absolutely, because they
because
will
they will
jump
go over
right
it.
over. Yep.
See, these are some of the lessons I learned real quick too. An electric fence won't hurt the goats, but it'll keep these things from eating them
Yep. And it'll shock the crap out of you trying to get into the pasture.
many times.
Yep.
Because no matter how many times you shock yourself, you'll forget it's there at least once.
Yep.
A week. I still shock myself on the one around the chicken pen.
Yep.
I have no idea who this is, but I think that's for Mr. Chasing Wolf. Something about a whisper on Twitch. I don't use the Twitch. I just broadcast on the Twitch. So if you're trying to reach us on Twitch, that is the CTW Media Group's Twitch, and I don't have access to reply to that.
All right.
So
if you have questions about goats, though, you can ask here.
Yeah, if you have questions about goats, just drop it in there. We have 6 minutes and 30 seconds left of airtime. But yeah, Michelle wants goats again. I think I want to wait until I have a bigger area to put goats in.
Oh, I have a seventh thing.
Oh,
so some way to transport them.
Dog carrier works great.
Works great. Just
For the bigger goats, I don't think we're going to shove Duke in a dog carrier though.
He would fit in that big one. Yeah, we could shove it. We could make him fit if we needed to. But no, he goes in the horse trailer now.
I mean, Duke is the size of a Great Dane.
He's 220 pounds.
Yeah, so he's bigger than most Great Danes.
Yeah.
So, and is just as tall.
I'm 6'5". He can stand up on my shoulders.
Yeah. So, goats are not tiny animals.
Well, they can be.
They can be.
You get the pet variety.
Yeah. We're not talking pet variety. Like normal goats, Nubians, which are amazing. I like Nubians. They're probably the coolest goats on the planet.
Yep. They have great personalities. They're not very aggressive, and they're very social.
Now the Alpines look
and
cool.
They're pretty.
Yeah.
Nubians
look pretty. Alpines look cool. At least the males do.
Yep. Duke makes pretty babies. He makes pretty tricolored spotted goats.
Yeah. I mean, how many babies did Duke produce? Yes, I know most of them were males.
Yeah, so they typically only kid once a year. So, there's some different philosophies out there. You can introduce your, buck to your does, and only breed when you want to. I didn't choose to do that. They all stayed together and bred however they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
But they only still kidded once a year.
Yeah, and typically it was the same time every year.
Yep. So My kidding ranged from December to April.
Yeah.
Depending on when Duke or Loki got to them.
Yeah. Or they were fertile.
Right. Yeah. They go into heat just like any other female mammal.
Yeah.
So and you can tell because the bucks start to smell. They'll throw off their musk really hard.
Yeah.
And they start making different noises. They'll stop eating. Their brains are just singularly focused.
Oh yeah.
And not to get into too many more details, but it happens fast.
Yeah.
It's probably the quickest breeding interaction of any animal I've ever seen. It's just they can do their thing on command, and
Yeah.
it takes a fraction of a second.
You blink, you miss it. It's not like you really want to watch it anyway.
Well,
But
it's interesting.
yeah. They're funny.
Oh yeah, they're very quirky animals. They're very fun to watch.
Yeah. And they won't hurt chickens, so you can have your chickens and goats in the same area.
Yep. As long as you don't have guardian dogs with them.
Yeah.
That have a taste for chickens.
Yeah, typically. Yeah. Or ducks or whatever fowl gets inside the fence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything that's not me or you or a goat.
Yeah. Pretty
basically was eaten. But yeah, they like the donkeys. They get along well with the donkeys. Which, by the way, I didn't mention are very good guardian animals as well.
Yeah.
I've seen my donkeys, damn near take care of a coyote.
Yeah.
I
think your old set of donkeys would have killed a coyote.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they would have taken care of that wild dog quick.
Yeah. The young ones are a little more timid. They haven't learned yet. And Emmett is just tiny.
Yeah.
He's tiny.
He needs to grow up some.
Yeah.
Give him some HGH or something.
He needs to grow up some so I can have more baby donkeys.
Yeah. Baby donkeys. That's what we're going to go with. Tiny Jacks.
That's right. Or Jenny's.
Because this show is 100% PG. I try to keep it that way.
I'm trying.
So am I. Because there's so many good jokes to make.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can get pretty graphic when you talk about this stuff.
You can. So I'm going to let you go feed the goats and the donkeys and
all right, man.
Zeus and Xena. And I'll talk to you later. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yep, no problem. It was fun.
All right. Everybody else. Here, I'm going to drop you. There we go. All right. So thanks for joining us tonight on Backyard Prepiversity. Like I said, we have a lot of stuff that's going on. We had all those baby chickens born. We had, we built the new A-frame chicken coop, the Coop DeVille, the chicken's coopty, so we can introduce the 1 month old chicks to the regular flock because you can't just show them together. So, but anyway, join us next week, Backyard Prepiversity, and we'll talk about some more backyard stuff, and hopefully I have some more stuff done. Until then, y'all have a wonderful night.